Good evening, everybody. It was fun to see you introduce yourselves. My name's Chris Costamagna. I'm the fire chief. I go by Chris, not chief. And then I have my peers with me, the deputy chiefs that are going to help me present tonight. I am Italian, so I do move around a little bit. So if you can hear me, let me know. Give me a thumbs up in the back. All right. I was talking to my peers here, and we all grew up in the fire service together. The fire service is kind of a family. And a little bit about me and my family. I was born in Sacramento, lived in District 3 and District, what's College Glen now, 4? 6, thank you. I'm sorry, they move around districts. That's the one thing I was going to say is district lines move around, neighborhoods don't. So, and we identify a lot with the neighborhoods because our stations are in all the neighborhoods and we identify with the whole city. And I could say at one time that I worked in every fire station in the city. I can't say that anymore. We built a couple new fire stations, thank goodness. And some of the old ones that I worked at have closed. They're still around the city, but they're in all those neighborhoods that I was here in. Del Paso Heights, Oak Park. Oak Park has not had a new fire station in a while, but there's 2 really cool fire stations in Oak Park. And that's just a little bit about me. I think one of the things that's neat about my background, I have 33 years in the fire service, 28 here in Sacramento. I worked for CAL FIRE for a bit. I worked for a special district, and then I came to the city. The one thing about a city, and the manager kind of hit on it, is a city has a lot of assets. And a city fire department, you don't have to want to get your equipment to a shop to get it fixed. We have a shop in the city. We have multiple shops in the city. So there's lots of things that a city has that maybe a special district doesn't. One thing a city has that special districts don't is you have the big, the council members and the mayor and the manager, and there's a little more bureaucracy in the city where like a special district fire department, there's a few of them in the county. They just have a fire board that's focused on the fire department. So they move faster than a city does. But we have a lot more assets kind of at our fingertips. So myself, I said I was born in the city. I moved away to the suburbs. I came back in 2019, and I've lived here, and I will live here. I like this. I kept moving back and forth, and I had an opportunity to buy my great-grandmother's house. So, and she was an immigrant from Italy. So that's kind of cool that I got that house. Needs a little work, but it was built in 1929. So I'll get on with it. That's my name. It kind of looks like an eye chart. So we'll get on this. So the mission of the Sacramento Fire Department is to protect our community through effective and innovative public safety. That's a mission statement. But we're out there everywhere in our communities trying to be a part of our community. And I think somebody said it earlier when you were saying the one word that describes you, it's transformation for this fire department. And you look at us, we're the oldest fire department west of the Mississippi. So formed in 1850 as a 1850 as a volunteer, 1872 as a professional department. We lost half of our staffing as soon as we became professional. That's a joke. No. But it's also true. The number of stations, when you had volunteers, you just had that many more people in the community from the neighborhoods helping. When it became a paid professional department, it became, fire departments are known to be a burden on a city, but we're here for a reason. And when you look at this city, it's surrounded by 2 rivers. It has a railway that goes through the center of it. It has freeways on all sides of it. There's bad things that happen in Sacramento just with that. And then you have an old city with a fire problem that's different in every neighborhood. And there's a lot that can happen in a night. I've only heard an engine go by once tonight. We used to do this class in the fire station at Station 2, and that station, that engine was going in and out the whole time. They try and kind of keep it quiet in the neighborhoods, but we'll hear them probably at least one more time here tonight. And I think that's one of the things that attracts people, and I want you to think about that. What attracts people to Sacramento? It's the weather, it's the mountains close to us, it's the city itself, everything it has. But we have a hard time attracting people to do that job that you saw kind of flashing in the background there. And that's kind of a little foreshadowing for some of the questions I want to ask later on. So this video is longer, but it's kind of like where we started, Sutter's Fort. The city burned down twice, and they decided they needed volunteers. And then the volunteers were known to come from different walks of life, and they were paid by insurance companies in the day. And the first person to get water on the fire, I don't know if you guys know this, that was the insurance company who paid, right? So there's a lot of fighting in the streets to get that water on the fire. That's part of why we became a paid professional department. It took that kind of fight out of the game. It didn't take it out of the people that wanted to do the job. It takes a kind of a different, weird type of person to want to do the job, to run into a burning building that people are running out of. But what I really need to talk about is that's not all we do. We're a fire department. We do a lot more. And that's been the evolution and the transformation of the fire department. So you kind of see it, some of the first medic units. That medic unit was from 1950s. And now today we have 18 medic units. We had one back then. There was a time when we had none. So I talked about the volunteer fire department. It was the first in the West. We became paid in 1872. Big deal, rubber hose in the 1900s. Motorized apparatus, so we switched from horses to motorized apparatus. In the 1920s, the department started annexing surrounding areas that are all part of Sacramento now. North Sacramento, there was a fire engine that was up there. It was a North Sacramento fire engine. It was its own city. There's different parts of the city of Sacramento were annexed. And to this day, we still have parts of the city that we provide, or the unincorporated county, like North Natomas, we provide service to. Pacific Fruit Ridge, we provide service to. So the city fire department actually covers more area than the city proper. But that's by contract. The big thing in the 40s was we expanded our mission to provide code enforcement for the fire code that was pretty small code back then. Now it's pretty big. So, and with high rises and everything else, the big thing back then was water heaters and weed abatement in the 40s. It's everything else now, hospitals, schools, high rise, and the permitting of new homes. So in the 80s and 90s, we began serving, again, I talked about the contract areas, our Fruit Ridge, Natomas, and Pacific. Those are all contract areas, still contract areas today. And then we expanded services into the EMS, emergency medical services. So the 18 medic units I talk about today, when I got hired in 1995, there was 4 of them. 3 were on all the time and 1 was a reserve that we would put in service when it got busy. And actually, that's the starting of the program. When I got hired, I think there was like 7 medic units. We got into hazardous materials, and any type of hazardous material spill in the 80s, but a lot of it was meth labs and stuff like that in the 80s. The city had different problems in it than they do today, but we still have 2 Type 1 hazmat teams in the city, and we can provide service anywhere in the county by contract as well. So a lot of the unincorporated county and Sac Metro Fire Department, we work together with them to provide hazardous materials response, and we'll talk more about that. This is a look at like some of the stuff we took on. There's more that we're going to talk about, but you have the hazmat units. They're making entry into like a a manhole or a utility hole on the right bottom corner. We had Santa Claus stuck in the power lines. That was up in North Sacramento. And then our medic units that you hear all day long and all night long. I think the big step for me in my career was the special and technical services that we do. The rescue, the urban search and rescue team that someone else is going to talk a little bit more about. But it allowed me to get out, train more, and I got to go all over the country and practice what I was taught here in Sacramento. And then I got to bring back to Sacramento what I learned elsewhere in the country. So here's the the org chart, right?
There's a test at the end.
There's a test at the end. You gotta know everybody's name. But it's how we divide ourselves up. 760 people in the fire department. And that's not all uniformed personnel. There's a lot of administrative personnel. We'll talk about that. They're the ones that let us go down the road every day. Those people, the people in the shops, the people that buy the equipment that we need, we can't do our job without them. And they're all represented on this org chart. And I was having a conversation with our PAO shop earlier today about how if you want to work for the fire department, there are so many different ways that you can work for the fire department in Sacramento. It doesn't have to be a firefighter. It can be so many different things. It can be an EMT, a paramedic. Yeah, it can be a firefighter. It could be an administrative professional that helps us get our job done, because we can't do it. We couldn't have put the PowerPoint together without the administrative professionals. Yeah. So, Office of the Chief. I'm still learning. It's going to be a year next week. Still learning what I'm supposed to be doing. Thought I knew what I was supposed to be doing, but I'm really here just to provide guidance in a lot of areas. Provide that lens, the equity lens that Howard talks about a lot, equity, diversity, and inclusion, making sure that we're looking into our communities and finding youth in our communities that want to do this job and introduce them to it early on. And I think that's, again, foreshadowing for my question for you. When I started with the fire department, there was about 3,000 people a year that would test for the fire department. I think our last numbers were 212 EMTs that passed the test and 24 paramedics. We need like 40 paramedics, but we'll take a mix and we'll grow our own because, again, through our diversity commitment and inclusion to our communities, we can't just take paramedics. It becomes a barrier to entry into the fire department. So we're looking for ways to find more people that can do the job that we've done for a long time here in the city. So I oversee a lot of things. I give direction, not always the best direction. And I work with the management team to make sure that everybody's getting what they need. And really, when I say everybody, it's the whole community. It's all of Sacramento. We cover every community in Sacramento. We're there every night and every day, housed or unhoused. We're there for these communities. I think that's what's special about Sacramento and the fire department. And we keep growing the things and the services that we have. But when I talk to my bosses, it's how do we do it within our means? And that's a challenge, but it's not impossible. So I'm kind of segueing right there. I'm going to be around for questions, so I'll let Chief Taylor come up. Chief Taylor is the Deputy Chief of Operations, and he's going to talk about the day-to-day operations that are really what you see when the fire engines and fire trucks, and there'll be a test question on that too. What's the difference? Going down the road every day. Chief Taylor?
Hey, good evening, everyone. The chief
touched on a lot of things that myself and my counterpart, Chief Builder, will kind of elaborate, but we also want to speed this up and make sure that we don't do a lot of redundancy. So we'll start out with a couple questions, okay, for you guys. So the chief hit one of them. Does anyone know the difference between an engine and a truck? Right. So a lot of times you just see it go down the street and you go, "There's a truck," or what have you. So a fire engine is the first out the door, going on almost every medical aid. They're both called suppression companies, but the fire engine carries water, so that's where the hoses are. And then the ladder truck or the truck is like the big toolbox, and they have more technical specialties that we can use, and we'll get into that a little bit more. So that's the reason why you'll see different size pieces of apparatus. They're very expensive, so we thank the community for that. And then, so a lot of people think there's not too many fires anymore. It's not like the old days, right? So, how many fires do you think the Sacramento Fire Department goes on in a year?
I think we have a lot. I think you do have a lot.
Yeah. So we have fire responses, right? And then we also have what we get on scene and confirmed a working fire, an actual good incident. So, yeah, we're just under about 800. So it's a little over, around 3 a day almost. And that's all over the community. It's not just in one area or the next. So we do have a fire problem. But I think that compared to most cities in California or in the United States, but it's just, we are the oldest. We do have all types of building construction. And so the operations side of what I do as the operations and training chief is, the operations is sort of just what you think of the fire department. And they go down there and they squirt water and then they go shopping and eat, So that's kind of like the rough estimate of it. But we do run about 110,000 calls a year. Okay, so we do run quite a bit of those are medical aids. But the number one thing that I always say in operations, because everyone calls us a traditional fire department. We're really traditional and aggressive fire department. But what that means to me in this group is that to stay traditional, we need to evolve with our community. Okay, and that sounds like that doesn't make sense, but when you really think about it, is if you're not keeping up with what's going on in your neighborhoods and what challenges are out there, then your business for what the fire department is in this community will start going away, and it won't mean as much to us as it does to the next generation. We care about our neighborhoods, we care about our people, and we care about getting information of what are we missing. So we try to do that, and I bring that into operations because we try to do that because we're called in somebody's bad day. For us, it's called compassion fatigue sometimes. This is what we do. We run at a high pace. You see a lot of different things, but it's always circling back to that person's worst state and make sure when we leave, they're okay. Not even just medical wise or family members, whatever. Are you okay? And that's part of my job, is because the folks, the crews that are out there, they may miss the mark once in a while, but they truly all are trying to give it their best. And I don't have to go out and throw ladders, pull hose, or go on horrific accidents or what have you. My job is to make sure that operationally we look professional to you, because that's what our community deserves. So the operations is sort of the why, this is why we're here. And then I run the training division as well. And the training division is how we safely and effectively accomplish the why. So I'll get into those just a little bit more. We have, let me get to that. Get you, there it is. Okay. So you have the stuff in front of you, so I won't be death by PowerPoint. We'll kind of move on from there. And how that works is we'll talk like apparatus, okay? So our apparatus, we talked about an engine, we talked about a truck. Those are staffed along with the ambulance, our medic program that Chief Builder will talk about a little bit more. Those are staffed 24/7. And that's 3 shifts, okay? So there's 3 shifts in the fire department that work. Each shift works 48 hours straight, and then they keep rotating. So those equipment, we have our 24 engines, 9 ladder trucks. We have 1 rescue and 18 ambulances. Those are going all day long. But what you'll see is sometimes if you're, you see something that looks kind of like, that's a weird looking fire engine. And it might be one of our wildland rigs or grass rigs. So we have all this auxiliary equipment that's staffed by those 24 fire stations that we put in service. We call it cross staff. We put in service if the need arises, meaning we have like our hazmat that the chief talked about. We have an air unit because 3 working fires a day or so at least. We run out of our air bottles, and so we have an air unit that's constantly filling all of our stuff. We have our boats and our water bikes, and so you'll see we have a lot of challenges that bring a really cool environment to this city. One of the reasons I love being here, we have a lot of great things to offer, but those come with, the ability to have some issues, whether that be in the water, in the parkway. We're kind of surrounded by water pretty much. So we'll get into the next one here is the types of equipment. We talked about that. And then the chief hit on it a little bit. We also are responsible for a FEMA task force, California Task Force 7. So we're one of 28 teams in the country, and we're one of 8 in just California. It's a really honor to have that, and what that means is that's a collaborative effort for this region. So it's different than you see the wildfires and things like that on TV. We deploy as a government agency, the city of Sacramento, as a government agency. We go out in a strike team. Well, the task force, the FEMA task force, it's a bigger picture. We're sponsored by FEMA, and we deploy to significant catastrophic events. So just some ones that we've been a part of and have gone to, and Oklahoma City bombing, World Trade Center on 9/11, Hurricane Katrina, the Washington mudslides, and most recently the hurricanes in Florida and the horrific fire in Lahaina. So the chief talked about, we as Sacramentans get to make our mark across this country, but we also get to bring that back here and be prepared for our citizens in this town. And I feel we do a pretty good job of that. And it's important to mention what that team allows us to do is allows us to understand all of our regional partners. So we have the city, we know how we operate, we know how we roll, and we know what we need to do, but we also see how all the special districts, smaller agencies, they all come to us as part of this team. And it's really neat. It's really neat seeing us all work together. We also have a hazmat that the chief talked about. That's just some of us, this is how elaborate our use are. I mean, we have semis that go on planes and fly. I mean, we have a whole warehouse of really cool stuff. We're at a lot of toys. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Yeah. I was gonna try to make it serious, but there's a lot of toys. Yeah. So let's see. I'll get past that one, and we'll go to our hazmat. So hazmat is also cross-staffed in the department, and we also serve about 1.5 million people as our hazmat team, and that's through contracts. Okay, those are contractual agreements with surrounding agencies, and those are the hazmat teams go on everything from flammable gas to honey oil labs. You name it. So those are that's also a specialty skill. There's only certain people in a department that take classes to go get that certification. And then we have our technical rescue, which is sort of like the task force, but we have it internally because, we have high rises downtown that have window washers, like a lot of things people don't think about. Window washers that, get stuck. We have this picture right here, was just someone that was having a psychiatric problem and decided to climb to the top of a charged high voltage tower. And you can see them over in the corner there, right next to the power. And this is us going up to try to pick them off. And that's actually happened several times. Yeah. So we have our folks that are regularly going down the road, and they're on the engines and trucks, and they'll go into they're actually part of one of our busiest stations, and they'll switch over to technical rescue mode. And then we have a boat program, our marine program. Like I said, last winter is a great example. We were pretty much an island, right? We were just surrounded by water. We had to pick a lot of folks that are unhoused and live in the parkway or what have you. We had to go out and pick them off of because they're stranded, and try to get them some help. We also have our boat teams, our water bikes, which are like jet skis. And unfortunately, although I should say, fortunately, the rivers are a lot of fun. We get very active. You've seen them; that they get packed in the summer, but that comes with some risk as well. So unfortunately, we do have more than our share of drownings. And then our last is our training division. This is training division is the cradle to grave of the fire service. So if in your career you start out in the training division, you go to the recruit academy. We call it re-socialize you. They not only teach you all your skills that you need to, but they also make you understand what this job's about. How you have to. We're just stewards of the taxpayers. It's our job to keep the equipment clean, be the best trained, and serve the community to the best of our ability. Training will also teach you that we don't choose who we go on. And when you believe in helping people, you don't make a choice, you just help. And that's really important for us to portray to the citizens out there. So also in the training division, we have in-service training and recruit training. So in-service, the state, there's national certifications that you have to keep updating every single year. So our training division stays really busy for keeping every firefighter online, getting their certifications up, basically sending them reminders. A lot of it's online now, and then we also have regular in-service or hands-on training that we have to do as well. And then we have a real robust driving program called EVOC, Emergency Vehicle Operations Center, and that's in partnership with SAC PD. And that helps us with a little bit of risk reduction for how many miles we're putting on the road 24/7. So the one thing I would like to add on that is people go like, what do you mean like driving? Like, aren't you trained for that? It is, but we all drive around Sacramento right now, right? We're all stoked on the development. We're going vertical living, but those streets are smaller and smaller, and our equipment's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And so we're really trying to keep our drivers really up to par on driving. And then our ambulances that Tilden will talk about a little bit more. They run 48-hour shifts, and so we have partnered with our risk folks who did a sleep study test, and they run our ambulances are so busy that they don't sleep at all, and so we have a partnership on getting them to rest the day 2 of their cycle of their 48, because without people like the EVOC, they're subject to be, when they're really tired, to be equivalent to double the legal limit of drunk driving, right? And so back in our day, we didn't even think about it. Like, we just get some coffee, we'll be fine, And now it's like, wake up, and or should say go to sleep. But it's really important for us to partner with so many areas of our city that can offer us help on what are we missing? What are we doing wrong? And so they help us implement those types of plans as well. So I'm going to pass it off to Chief Builder. That's operations and training. Thank you for having us. This is super cool.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Tilden Billiter. I have been with the Sacramento Fire Department for 21 years and in the fire service for 26 years. Kind of crazy saying that. Yeah, one of the things Mike won't tell you, he's a pretty humble leader in our organization. He oversees 174 people a day. It takes 174 people to run this organization a day, and they average about 298 calls a day. So you won't hear those kind of things coming from him because that's just kind of leader. But it just gives you kind of a scope and magnitude of how big this city is and how busy we are. So I'm one of the newest members to the Fire Chiefs executive team. I think I'm going on a year here in the next month or two, and I oversee community services. That's comprised of 3 different divisions, and we'll talk about each one. I'm only going to spend about 45 minutes to an hour for each one, so we'll probably be, yeah, we'll be out shortly. Yeah, we'll be out shortly. EMS division. The EMS division is actually located, you know where the big water tower is, J Street Water Tower. At the base of that, that's our EMS division. There's 13 people, sworn and civilian staff members that operate out of that water tower. They oversee, like the chief said, a fleet of 18 ambulances. And our EMS division was stood up formally in 1994 when this city decided to provide a higher level of medical service to the community. We started hiring ALS personnel. Those are paramedics. Before that, we had EMTs, or very basic first responders. And because of the level of service that this community was getting from the private ambulance companies, the fire chief, his dad, decided to bring in a higher level of service. So we started hiring paramedics. We purchased a bunch of ambulances so we could get to the call quicker and we could transport to the hospitals quicker. So that program started in 1994. And now we have 18 ambulances, and about 75% of our calls out of the 110,000 that mentioned earlier are EMS related. The other division that I oversee is the fire prevention division. This is a really unique division, and because kind of the way the fire service works, if you come up through the ranks like the 3 of us did, you get a really limited exposure to the fire prevention. They are part of the fire department. They don't work inside of the fire station. Most of them work a 4-10 schedule, or Monday through Friday. Sometimes they'll come in on the weekends. And so that's probably been one of the biggest learning curves with me. Our fire marshal, Jason Lee, he's been the fire marshal for 8 years. There's 4 units inside of fire prevention, code enforcement, new building construction, permits, and investigations. And they do what you probably think they do. They meet with a lot of community stakeholders, a lot of developers in the pre-planning phase, during construction, and really their role is to prevent fires. And so our prevention is very active in the community. With permits for events like farmer markets. Our fire marshal is out there, or our fire prevention team's out there to make sure that what they need is in alignment with the fire code, because our ultimate responsibility is to try to support the community events, but still ensure that we are providing for fire safety and life safety. So our fire marshal is all over the city at all times, and we have a lot of new construction going on, so he's always meeting with those stakeholders and community organizers just to work them through the process. Our fire investigator unit, fire prevention has 37 people in it, and that's a mix of fire prevention officers, civilian staff, and then investigators. We have 8 investigators, and like Mike said earlier, we go to multiple fires a day. And we strive to investigate all of those fires. About 70 to 80% of the fires that happen in the city of Sacramento are arson related. And so it's important for us to thoroughly investigate those so we can make the citizens a little bit safer. I'll give you a recent success story. Our investigator team was able to collaborate with the DA's office, city PD, and we were able to successfully arrest an individual who we feel started probably 3 to 4 dozen fires in the city of Sacramento over a span of 6 to 8 months. And so our investigation unit is very active. And let's see, I think I got all that. All right, let's end with our newest division, the door division. This division is about 3 years old. We're on our 3rd year. It's the division Diversity, Outreach, and Recruitment. It was stood up for, it's got kind of a multiple mission in their division. There's 3 units in that division. There's an outreach and recruitment group, there's a youth program group, and then there's pipeline programs. Fire chief talked a lot about what our mission is and his priorities are in the city, and a lot of that is in alignment with the city's priority. We want to get ingrained in our community. We want to provide a workforce that's diversified, that reflects our community, and we want to touch the youth because Mr. Chan talked about it earlier. We struggle with recruitment and retention issues. Probably what you'll hear from every department that comes through here right now. And so we've stood up this division, and our outreach and recruitment division, they touch all over the community. They're in every high school. They're at all of the job fairs. We reach out to different community organizations. We're at veterans fairs. Just last year, they had over 900 outreach engagements. And that could be as simple as one-on-one meetings, a question and answering session with a young adult, an adult just has no idea what the fire department is. We'll schedule a 1 or 2 hour session with that individual and be there present with them just to answer their questions, to offer them some advices. Or like I said, we'll be out in the community fairs inside the community recruiting. Our youth, excuse me, our youth program, we started a youth academy. And we just started the 5th academy, the 5th cohort. We have 35 local individuals in there. And really the mission of that is to expose our youth to the fire service. A lot of people don't even know that the fire department or the fire service is even an option. And so we recruit at every high school. Often we'll bring past cadets out and engage. We've spoken in front of class sizes of 300 and 400, but we touch every high school. We usually have about 100 to 150 applicants. They're allowed to continue to go back in to the youth academy. And what we focus on, you saw that first slide, we focus on our mission. We teach them what a ladder is. We teach them how to stretch hose. We teach them what our core values are and what that means and what that looks like to our organization and how it should be reflected out in the service that we give to the community. And from there, we have that pipeline program. So our pipeline program, we have 2 programs right now. One is brand new and one has been around for a while. We have a reserve program. This is a volunteer program where we recruit from around the Sacramento region and they come and they interview. We usually do 2 cohorts a year. Right now we have about 40 active reserves. Some kind of come in, come out, different life events. They attend a 16-week academy that our staff inside of our door program, as well as a lot of our online members, will come out on their free time to help them train and teach them. And once they pass a 16-week academy, they'll go on shifts. Mike told you earlier we have 3 shifts, so a lot of times they'll sign up for shifts. And if we get large multiple fires or it's a hot day out, they'll respond out with our air unit. They'll give us food, water, so they're a huge resource for our organization on these large and complex fires. So. And then our newest program is our EMS trainee program. This is in line with one of our strategies to try to recruit inside of the city and kind of train our own. And we just started this program. It's a couple months old. We have 19 people in our EMS trainee program. And what that is it's a pipeline program. Chief Casamagna talked a little bit about traditionally we have some barriers into the fire service. When we were coming up to the fire service, you either became a firefighter EMT or a firefighter paramedic. And a lot of us worked on the private ambulance companies to get some medical experience, but there wasn't a lot of steps in between that. And so this is a pipeline program where we hire you, we pay you to go to EMT school if you don't have it. We pay for your tuition to go to paramedic school. You got to work for us for 20 hours a week, and those 20 hours we put you on an ambulance and you do a ride along so you can get exposed to the culture, see call volume. In fact, we've had 2 members, they're I think on week 3 or week 4, 2 members have done CPR, 1 helped deliver a baby already. So you can see how that experience would transition over into paramedic school. And at the end of paramedic school, they're going to be offered 1 of 2 pathway. A new program that we're starting is our single role ambulance company. This is a pipeline program where we will provide the same level of medical service to the community, but you will be a part of the fire department, but you won't work on an engine or a truck. You will just work on an ambulance full time. So at the end of this internship program, you'll have the ability to be hired into that program as a paramedic, or you could go the more traditional path and go into our recruit program and go through our recruit academy and become a full-time paid firefighter paramedic. That's all I have. Chief?
I'll talk a little bit about this, and I'll make it quick. This used to be my division as a deputy chief. And I'm going to hit on one thing. The single role program, the difference being for single role paramedics is they work a 12-hour shift. So some of the things that we talked about with the dual role paramedics, where we have to put them down for rest because they're working 48 hours at a time. That single role paramedic comes in, works 12 hours. The idea is they're always fresh and ready to go. So it would be pretty hard to work just on a medic unit 48 hours at a time. So it's a way to attract new people to public safety in general, but really the fire service. Technical services provides all the support services and functions for the fire department. They're the folks that built that fire station. They're the folks that spec out that fire engine for the city and say, this is what we need to have on it. They're the ones that go in and say, this is the type of equipment we need to have. The SCBA, the breathing apparatus that goes on our back, they spec that out. When I started with this department, we didn't have thermal imager cameras that you can see in the dark. Put your hand in front of your face, shut the lights off. Thermal imager can see everybody in this room. They're the ones that spec all that stuff out. Technical services. They're also in charge of all of our IT, all of our radio communications, and that engine's sitting right there as you see it. It's nice and pretty and red. It also has about $40,000 to $50,000 worth of electronics in it, with its radios, its red lights, the siren, everything that gets it down the road. So I talked about it a little bit. Computers and software. The NDC is what we receive the call on. That's a data terminal. Portable radios are the radios we get off the apparatus with and we can talk with. There's a mobile radio that's on the apparatus. Cell phones. When I started, we didn't have cell phones. Somebody talked about, my dad was the fire chief here as well. When he was a fire chief, I think like his last couple of years, he had a cell phone. I pack a cell phone, actually 2 cell phones with me, 24/7, 365. And then the station alerting systems. Every station, we used to have this really old system. It's called a Gamewell system. You can look it up if you want. It all went electronic, but it only was like 6 or 7 years ago that it all went electronic, like digital electronic. And then probably the most recent ad, and it's for firefighter safety and accountability. You see in the bottom right, it's called Tablet Command, and it's an iPad. We probably have one here tonight, but that's what it looks like, and we can track every piece of equipment, where it's at on the fire ground, and we can touch on that engine or truck and see who's on that piece of equipment. And that becomes important to us in a lot of different ways. And Chief Taylor and Chief Builder are like the ones that push that into the modern fire department that you have today. I'll talk about this real quick. We have a civilian deputy that isn't here tonight with us. Her name's Anna Tieran, but she's the deputy in charge of finance personnel and our records. She's the fire admin manager. She makes sure all of our administration is up and running and getting things done that we need to get done. She keeps us on track a lot of times too with the administrative piece of the fire department. Because a lot of times we want to go out and like polish the rig or whatever, and she gets us back on track. So she makes sure everybody's got their benefits. Every October in the city, you go through your benefits. She makes sure all that's taken care of, workers' compensation, all the leave. She manages our budget. We're a general fund department. You'll see general fund departments and enterprise fund departments in here. We're a general fund department. We also have money that supports us as an offset as Measure U funds, and it helped us start that DOOR program. We would not have the DOOR program without Measure U funds. And then grants, we have quite a few grants. Grants are, depends on the year, how many grants we have. That urban search and rescue team for at least since I've been on has operated off of a grant. So there's the stats. Let you look at those real quick, there'll be a test. This one down here keeps climbing. And it's not because we're adding people, it's because of the living wage, inflation. We did add people this year, but we did an offset to start that single role program. So I could explain that if I had more time. But I think really, unless you have questions here, I think we're at questions and answers. Those are some of the new trends that we're fighting. As a fire department, we call it firefighting. But this is some of the trends that we're fighting. Fentanyl, lithium batteries, being some of the scary ones, rail car incidents coming through the city.